construction processing. Her hobbies are playing drums, and if her hobby is playing drums, she did it last night. She got on the drums and she made the audience stand. Teresa Ann Kane, Miss Black, Oklahoma State University. Miss Oklahoma University was selected last week. She is the lovely Demarius Anderson from Haskell, Oklahoma. Miss Northeastern A&M College, Miami, Oklahoma, was selected last week. She is Jadonna Hatter of Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Miss Claremore, and when I say Miss Claremore, I mean Miss Rogers Junior College in Claremore, Oklahoma, selected its Miss Black Rogers Junior College, and that was Miss Trenda Martin, who lives in Veneta, Oklahoma. The village has selected their Miss Black. It's Gayla Dunn. Forest Park is still searching for that one girl that will represent Forest Park. Britain has selected Rhonda Liggins, Anna Darko, Sherna Coffey, Arcadia Estranella Doolan, Luther Anita Cook, Green Pastures Renee Fontenot, Nakoma Park Gloria Fulmer, Moore Theresa Lester, Oklahoma City University Nelda Washington, Choctaw, Oklahoma Janice Simpkins, Muskogee, Oklahoma Lisa Anderson. Now, Oklahoma City will select its Miss Black Oklahoma City on April the 14th, 1984. The selection will be at the Quality Inn Central, and you are invited. And incidentally, this is the last week that you can sign up for Miss Black Oklahoma City 1984. Once again, this is your last week to sign up for Miss Black Oklahoma City 1984. But here I have in the studio with me Mrs. Luella Wallace, the promoter of the Miss Black Spencer pageant. How are you today?
Hello, Clara, and hello, Oklahoma.
Well, certainly when you speak to Clara, you are speaking to Oklahoma. There it is.
I am so happy to be a part of the growing Miss Black Oklahoma State pageant. I am Lou Wallace of Spencer, of the Spencer pageant, and at this time, it's with pleasure that I invite you to the Midwest City Community Center on March the 9th, 1984 at 7:30, when we will again select the Miss Black Spencer. We are excited about this year's pageant, Clara. Our contestants are Miss Princess Swain. She is 19 years old. She attends Rose Junior College. Her major is in elementary education. She's the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Leroy Swain of Spencer, Oklahoma.
Okay, you've got to continue to tell me more. What other contestants do you have?
All right, I have Miss Stephanie Webb. She's 18 years old. She's attending Oklahoma University. Her major is in psychology. She's the daughter of Mrs. Esther Jean King of Spencer, Oklahoma. And we will have more contestants as our search goes on.
Oh, Miss Sharita Johnson has called, and she will certainly be a part of that pageant, and she has told me that she will win. Now, that pageant is on what date?
March the 9th at 7:30, the Midwest City Community Center on Midwest Boulevard in Reno in Midwest City, Oklahoma.
Thank you so very kindly for being my guest today. Birdie Lee Arnwine Brookins is dead. Mrs. Brookins, a member of the Fifth Street Baptist Church, died on Thursday. Funeral services for Mrs. Brookins will be held tomorrow at 11 a.m. at the Fifth Street Baptist Church, located at 800 to Northeast to 5th Street here in Oklahoma City, with Reverend Bradford presiding. Sometimes there comes a crack in time, and sometimes one looks around and that one person has gone. Many people will remember Mrs. Brookins in different ways. But my family will remember her because she loved children. One time, Shelley and I were out of town, and when we arrived back, She told us about the storytelling contest, and she wanted Shelley to get in that contest. Mrs. Brookins say, I've just been calling you all the week, and I haven't been able to get you, Clara, but I want Shelley in that contest. And I said, all right, Mrs. Brookins. And I remember how happy she was as Shelley won first place in a church, first place in a district, first place in the state, and then went on to the national and took top awards. And as I look at the trophies that Shelley won, I wonder what would have happened to Shelley if Mrs. Brookins had not cared enough to put Shelley in that storytelling contest. I will also remember her because I never miss an usher program at my church. She was always there. And I have always wondered why a person can continue to be an usher, a non-paying job. I wonder. But the answer was in Mrs. Brookins. She loved people, and she loved the satisfaction of doing a job well, and she did her job well. Yes, it's a vacant seat at Fifth Street Baptist Church. But that vacant seat serves as a reminder to all of us that once upon a time there lived a beautiful Christ-like person named Bertie Brookins. And we thank God for her memory. We thank God that we knew her. When we think of Mrs. Brookins, certainly we think of her son, Douglas. And what is a son? It's a dream of a mother. We think of her grandson, Chevron. We think of her sister, Helen, who came from Los Angeles when she found out her sister was ill and stayed with her until she passed. We think of a devoted husband, Jesse Brookins. And then we think of her brothers, Clifford Skelton from Kansas City. We think of Haywood Skelton from Wichita, Kansas, and Roscoe Hunter from Los Angeles, California. But then we think of a businesswoman. We think of Bertie Brookins, who worked with the Abide Realty Company, selling and finding the best deal that she could for people that needed it most. Tomorrow, Fifth Street Church will say goodbye to Bertie Lee Arnwine Brookins. Thank God for her memory. This past month, we have brought you Black History Specials. Together, we have walked through the pages of Black history. And on this last Sunday, we wanted to leave a Black History Special with you. This part of our program will be brought to you by our sponsors. Behold the Walls by Clara Luper, the story of the sit-in movement here in Oklahoma City. This will be brought to you by Orange and Sons Trucking and Construction Company, specializing in asphalt work, new construction, patchwork, repair. Contact Orange and Son for your landfill, excavating and landscaping needs. Red dirt, topsoil, sand, rock, shell. Call Joe Orange. The telephone number is 769-4052 here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Our Black Heritage Special. This special was presented this morning at the Fifth Street Baptist Church in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Here it is. This is what you have waited for. Your Black History Special.
What is history? History is a long, unwinding story of men and women who have walked down life's highways. It's a story of men and women whose lifestyles were shaped by circumstances and events over which they had no control. Therefore, Black history is a long story flavored with strange laws, strange moral ethics, and strange patterns of behavior over which they had no control. Since 1926, black people have been looking back over their past, looking back over a road that has already been traveled, looking back over a long history of towering heroes who made it in spite of the stumbling blocks. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Listen as black people tell their stories.
I am a slave. I, like no other American, was brought to this country, the land of the free, the home of the brave. I was brought to this country in chains. I was sold by my own people. Did you hear what I said? I was sold to the white man by my own people. I saw my people die on slave ships, some from sickness, torture, and some were killed. I saw some of my people jump in the Atlantic Ocean just in order to be free. For 246 long years, my people dreamed of freedom, even though our backs were bloody, even though the master treated us as property, not as people, but as property. For it was in those dark days that we heard about a God that loved us, and we prayed to him, and he understood how we felt. I remember the time when I talked to God. I told him exactly how I felt. Oh God, I feel like a motherless child.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
I'm here today representing the field hands. After the Civil War, we didn't even get to breathe an air of freedom. Most all of us were field hands, dishwashers, and janitors. It was always a teaspoonful for us and 10 gallons for the man, as we called him. The laws became our enemies. Black people back of the buses, separate inferior schools, separate water fountains, separate. They said separate and equal, but it was separate and unequal. But I thank God for the church with its constant reminder of hope, faith, and love. And during the dark days of segregation, we felt like motherless children a long ways from home. Let me say, and I want you to understand, that I felt like a motherless child.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
I am a student. My forefathers were slaves, field hands, and workers. They were always the last ones hired and the first ones fired. In spite of their conditions, they dreamed of their children's and children's children's going to school. During slavery, I had to learn that it was against the law to teach slaves to read and write. That is why it is so important for blacks to learn to read and write today. Today, we are faced with great problems in school and in our lives. What shall we do? It is not too popular to go to church, to say no to drugs and alcohol, You tried to live a Christian life. Many times I have felt like a motherless child.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
I am a businessman. I finished high school at the top of my class, in spite of the fact that it was an integrated school. I received a full scholarship to one of the big 8 universities and graduated with honors. Even though I made good grades at my university, there were many times that I felt like a motherless child. I attended a university where blacks outnumbered whites on the football field, the basketball court, and in other sports. I even joined the debate team. Yet the coaches were always white. The dean, the professors, the president, and the assistants, they were white. The board of regents, they were all white. I came out of college and got a good job. I worked hard, and I forgot a lot of things. I forgot about my church. I forgot about the NACP. I forgot to vote. I moved out of the slums, though. And on my job, I began to train whites, and then I watched them get promotions as I stayed in my same position. I find myself in the same position as other blacks. If I feel like a motherless child, please understand. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
They call me a senior citizen. Urban Renewal took my home that I'd already paid for. And now I have to start all over paying for a house at my age. Most of my friends are living in those subsidized houses that they're too cold in the wintertime and they're too hot in the summertime. When you get old, people forget about you too. When I can remember when I was young, I used to work on a lot of church programs. But now, they don't even ask me to do anything anymore. You know, my church members done forgot all about me too. Even my relatives done forgot about me. They said they too busy to fool with me. God knows how I feel. I feel just like a motherless child.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
I was in an automobile accident. Do you know how I feel? God knows, because I talk to him every day. God knows that I feel like a motherless child.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Along the way from home, along the way from home. That's the story of blacks in America. Our future depend on our holding to the God of our fathers.
Thank you, Mrs. Slaughter. I would like for the audience to meet those that starred today in our Black History Special. Who were they, Mrs. Slaughter?
Okay, Mrs. Luper, the man who played the slave, the first speaker, was Johnny Nesbitt. And by the way, all these people belong to Fifth Street Baptist Church. The second player who was the field hand is Tracy Hill. The third person, the student, was Sandra Luke. The person that played the businessman, of course, was Calvin Luper. The person who played the old lady, and she's not really a senior citizen, was Novell Glover. And our last speaker who played the injured professional was Bert Taylor. And I, of course, am Anna Slaughter.
Thank you so very kindly, Sir Charles Taylor, located at 6225 Southeast 15th Street, would like to salute you on this Black History Special. Sir Charles is located in Midwest City, Oklahoma. The telephone number is 733-7600, and it's time for you to think about Easter. And when you think about Easter, you need to think about Sir Charles the Taylor. Now, he's giving us big discount to all people. All you have to do is a call 733-7600. How history changes. A few weeks ago, Calvin told me about a basketball team. A basketball team that Calvin felt that was one of the best basketball teams in Oklahoma City, not in the public school, but in the private arena. And I am honored today because Calvin has brought, for your pleasure today, members of that team and the man that does what to that team. What do you do to that team?
I'm the coach.
You're the coach.
Yes.
What do you know about coaching basketball?
No, not coaching.
Oh, what do you know about it?
Well, not a whole lot.
Did you play basketball?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And you think you are able to get the boys to really play basketball?
Well, it apparently showed that I did.
What do you mean it apparently showed that you did? What's your record?
We are 10-0.
10-0.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to introduce you to that part of it before I would tell you who this outstanding man was. And you are?
Stanley Brown,
Stanley Brown. You're a member of what church?
Trinity Baptist Church.
Trinity Baptist Church. Now, you are Stanley Brown. You have a basketball team. And you are telling me that that basketball team has a rating of 10-0.
That's correct.
Why did you start working with the boys?
Well, I like to work with boys. I like to work with girls. It's mainly through the church, and I just liked working with them.
Your church has a basketball team.
Yes, ma'am.
About how many young men are involved in your sports program?
In basketball, there's 10 in the high school.
10 in the high school?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then there's approximately around 10 girls that's in the high school girls or junior high. And then there's, I'd say just about as many that is in the junior high.
What other sports do you have in your church besides basketball?
Well, we also have softball, which, is starting up pretty soon. We have volleyball, and that's basically it.
Do you have a gymnasium at Trinity?
We do, but it's not that big a one. It's a very small one.
Well, where do you practice?
We practice in our gym.
Oh, so you practice it in spite of its condition.
Yes,
now,
ma'am.
you're saying that you have won 10 games this year. Who have you been playing? Little Mickey Mouse teams?
Well, I wouldn't say that. We played Highland Hills Baptist Church. We played Mayfair Baptist Church. We played Baptist Temple. We've also played Metropolitan. Let's see, Portland Avenue. And I believe that's all of them.
Well, and you have a record of 10-0.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, once upon a time in this town, blacks could not become members of white churches. I wonder if you have any black members at Trinity Baptist Church.
Yes, ma'am. In fact, one of my team players was, he's going to be baptized in the very near future. We do not know the date as of yet, but he accepted Christ and went down, and he became a member as of last Sunday.
Well, how about other blacks?
Yes, ma'am. We have a lot of blacks.
You have a lot of blacks in the Trinity Avenue Baptist Church.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's commendable. I want some whites to join my church. You whites out there that don't belong to a church, come on down to 5th Street because we really need that church integrated. We want to have complete integration. Now, sir, I would like to meet some of your basketball players.
Well,
May I have that privilege?
Well, of course.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to it. This should be exciting. And I want to meet somebody got a 10-0 record. I don't want to meet those Bobcats at Spencer, Oklahoma anymore. And I don't want anybody from Spencer to call me and ask me the score of that Spencer John Marshall game. I don't want to talk to no Bobcats. So you Bobcats don't call me. But I do want to talk to you. And your name, please?
It's Donald Hawkins,
Donald Hawkins. What church do you belong to?
Trinity Baptist.
How long have you belonged to Trinity Baptist Church?
About a week now.
About a week. Well, that's really good. And you are really a Christian?
Yes, ma'am.
And you have dedicated your life to God?
Last Sunday.
Who's your pastor?
His name is Ben Lauren.
Oh, I see. Now, what do you think of the man who has led you to a 10-0 victory?
What I think about him?
Yes. What do you think about him?
I think he's a nice person, and
What's so nice about him?
because he treat me just the way I treat him.
Oh, you treat him nice, so he treats you nice.
Yes, ma'am.
So you believe the day would come when you don't treat him nice, that he will not treat you nice?
Yeah, I guess if I be bad to him, he'd be bad to me.
Oh, that's a good philosophy. That's really a good philosophy. All right, now tell me about your basketball season and what you play.
I play guard and forward, and
Oh, how are you going to play both guard and forward?
because we have 10 people on our team, and when I need a rest, he put somebody else in. Or it depends on how the game is going.
If you are losing, then you
I
get.
play guard.
No, if you are winning, you.
I play forward.
Oh, I can't understand that. You are so versatile that you can play both ways.
Yes, ma'am. It's a lot of people on our team play both ways.
Oh, really? And you are one that plays both ways.
Yes, ma'am.
So when he needs a guard, you are there.
Yes, ma'am.
What are you going to do when you finish high school?
They trying to get me in Central State, and I want to play ball for them.
Are you playing ball for your school?
No, ma'am.
What school do you attend?
Well, I was attending Southeast, but now I'm attending Sage. It's a skill center. I'm taking out welding, like first part of the week, and second part of the week I take up my regular classes, history and English.
Well, that's commendable. Who are your parents?
Lillian Hawkins, and my father don't stay with us.
Okay, well, you aren't by yourself. Most fathers, you should feel good. If we would form a club of children where fathers aren't with them, it would be too large to even think about. And most people make good in spite of their fathers. If you don't believe it, ask Jesse Jackson. Who's this other young man? He doesn't look like he can play any basketball.
Still talking to me?
Yes, who is
Oh.
he?
It's Marcus Bryant.
Marcus Bryant?
Marcus
Bryant.
Yes,
Can he
ma'am.
play ball?
Yeah, he's good to go. He's
Oh.
play good.
Okay, I want to speak to Marcus. If he can play basketball. Marcus, I want to know. But before I talk to Marcus, let me remind you that this part of our program is brought to you by the House of Bingo. If you're planning on having some fun, and they tell me the House of Bingo is getting ready to give away a Lincoln. Now, those of you that want to play bingo, I want you to go to the House of Bingo, located at 3613 North Everett, open 6 days a week from 7 to 11 p.m. and also in the daytime. That's the House of Bingo, 3613 North Everett Street. And that's where some of these basketball players ought to go sometime and play some bingo. I had a young man telling me he can play both forward and guard. And what is your name?
Marcus Bryant.
Marcus Bryant.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you a basketball player?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you on that 10-0 team?
Sure.
Oh, sure. How did you
Yeah.
happen to make the team?
Ball handling.
Ball handling. And what do you mean by ball handling? I can handle a ball, too.
Take to the hoop.
Take two to hoop?
Mhm.
Okay, so you can hoop.
Yes, ma'am.
How many points have you made this season?
All together?
Yes.
Oh, about 92.
92 points?
Yeah, this is the big man over here.
What did the big man make?
About almost 200.
200 points?
Yeah.
When do you play? I would like to see you play.
Well, we're getting in this Millwood tournament following next month.
Yes.
The 22nd of
20,
March. Yeah, March 20.
Third, 24th.
Yeah.
March 23rd, 24th, and 25th, and you're going to be in the Millwood tournament.
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to call me because
Okay.
I want to see anybody that's made 200 points this season.
Okay.
And what position do you play?
Guard and forward, too.
What's the
Same.
purpose of a guard on a team?
Point. Ball handling. Get the ball down.
And you really get the ball down.
Yes, ma'am.
You really get the ball down. What grade are you in?
12.
Where do you go to school?
Well, I attend Southeast, but now Metro. Had
Oh.
a slight accident with Star Spencer.
What kind of incident?
Fight.
Oh, you're a fighter.
Nah, that was part of the school attendance.
Oh, I see. I see. I say if you're a fighter, I really like fighters. Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, I like fighters, but I have no respect for somebody that's fighting for nothing. They tell me Sugar Ray is going back in the ring, and some of you fighters grab here, but these little, I call them potlicker gym fighters, and get out here and fight for nothing. I am really happy that you all are here today, and I want you to do something for me. I would like to see you play basketball. I want to see if you are as good as you say you are.
Okay.
Could I get a special invitation? If
Yeah,
you're
my
that
word.
good, I want to invite you to Soul Bazaar 84, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And if you win that tournament, I'm going to give you something that's out of sight at that tournament. And at the Soul Bazaar. That's May 4th, 5th, and 6th. Now, if you win, if you lose, I don't want to see you. Something about being a loser. People don't care nothing about losers. They want winners. Would you agree with me?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you win that tournament, I want you to be my guest on the
team, and the thing that I was most impressed about was how well they played together as a team, and I could tell that they were well coached, and I had an opportunity to see them play 2 games, and both games they've just annihilated the competition, and these young men can really spring in their legs, and coach does a good job, and he has a good support staff too. It's a young lady that hadn't had a chance to, I know she doesn't play with them, but she keeps the records and everything, and I hope we get a chance to interview her too. But I was, as I said, I was really impressed with them. As a matter of fact, all of the teams in that league, it's just good to see young men out there doing something constructive. And it was quite impressive to see Stanley Brown coaching these men, young men, and getting them ready to live with the rest of the world. And they're an outstanding team, and I invite everybody to go out to Millwood at March 22nd date and get a chance to see some outstanding basketball. And maybe even we might see this team win and have them back at the Soul Bazaar on the radio show.
Thank you so very kindly, Calvin. And this part of our show has been brought to you by Seals Cleaners, 3617 North Everett Street here in Oklahoma City. The telephone number is 427-8362, open every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The Clara Luper Radio Show would certainly like to salute those of you out in radio land that are keeping up with the times, and the times say for you to do your best every day. I have with me today one of the proudest men in Oklahoma City, the head of the history department at John Marshall High School.
Good evening, Miss Luper. How are you this evening?
I am really fine, and I would like to welcome you to the Clara Luper Radio Show. And what do you have for our radio audience?
Well, this evening we would like to once again invite your very intelligent listening audience concerning our brother president presentation. Once again, it's now time for the show to go on the road and do some taping and some filming. But before we go on the road to do this taping and filming, we will have a production at Moon Middle School on Wednesday, February 29th at 9 o'clock in the morning. And that was a benefit performance for the history department at Moon Middle School. And of course, starting March the 1st, we will start our filming and taping.
Oh, excuse me now. You're filming and taking. You're going to really make a movie?
We're really going to make a movie of Brother President, sponsored also by Oklahoma University.
Dr. Hickman of Oklahoma University will no doubt be with us next week. Now, when you say you're going to start filming, what do you mean, Mr. Head of the History Department at John Marshall?
What I mean, Miss Luper, we're going to actually go through and do filming segments of the entire play, starting with the library scene, the bus scene, the state capitol scene.
Okay, let's take them one at a time.
Okay.
When will you film the library scene? That's at Chuck Davis, right?
That's with Charles Davis Jr. It will be March the 1st at John Marshall High School, starting about 12:20 p.m. And also that evening at 1:20, we will do the bus scene, which of course started the whole integration movement in Montgomery, Alabama.
Oh, that's the time Rosie Parks will get on the bus.
Right, exactly.
We better thank the Oklahoma Transportation Company for letting us have a real bus.
Right. We need to thank a lot of people, but as you said, the Oklahoma Bus Company should be thanked, the Senate,
okay, let's go down to March 2nd.
Okay,
now.
March the 2nd we'll be at the state capitol which will be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll do the United States Senate and the Supreme Court scene.
Oh, well, we better stop and thank the President Pro Tem of the Senate, the Chief Justice, and the judges of the State Supreme Court who have given us that privilege.
Exactly. Also, on March the 4th, which will be that Sunday, we will be at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, where we will film a scene from the play, which was, of course, at Ebenezer Baptist Church. And at 4 o'clock that evening...
Okay, let's go back to that evening at 1 o'clock. Is that the time you're
Yes, at 1
inviting
o'clock.
people to come out and be part of that scene?
Exactly, Ms. Lupe. We're inviting all of your listening audience to come out to help us with this filming at 1 o'clock at the Ebenezer Baptist Church.
Now, when they come out, all they will have to do is to come in the Ebenezer Baptist Church, and we will give them the instructions that they need. And incidentally, Mr. Leonardo DeBose is preparing a 39-member choir that will fill every seat in the choir stand, in order that we will do a song that we are looking forward to. That is really exciting.
Exactly. Also, that afternoon at 4 o'clock, we'll be again at the state capitol, where we will have our March on Washington, which will be from 1963 and 1983. And at this time, we're asking all of these sororities and fraternities, all those Omega men, the Kappas, the Alphas, the Sigmas, the sororities, the Deltas, AKAs, Zetas, Sigmas, all of these fraternities and sororities, we're asking you to be out to help us in this March on Washington for 1963 and 1983.
It's true that the March on Washington will be duplicated just like it happened with all of these sororities, Masonic groups. I can see Alarath Temple number 20. All of these group people will be in different uniforms.
Exactly.
And they will be just like they were in Washington when Stevie Wonder sang Happy Birthday.
Exactly, Ms. Lupe.
Okay, now I want to see how many people out there in Radio Land, and we are talking about all of the clubs, all of the sororities, all groups. That's 4 o'clock at the state capitol. Now, we will be on the east side of the state capitol because that's our best in making that look like Lincoln's Memorial. I have a notation here from the AKAs. The bacillus of the AKAs stated that the AKAs will be there.
And I already received a call from the bacillus of the Omegas, Mr. Cal Holloway, that said the Omegas will be in full force.
Well, we need some more calls from sororities, and I know my sisters in Zeta and my sisters in Sigma Gamma Rho will be here. And here's one other. Mrs. Hunter, do you think that the Zeta Phi Beta sorority will be represented in that blue and white in this shooting scene of this movie, Brother President?
Well, yes, Mrs. Luper, I'm sure they'll be there if I can count myself for 2 or 3.
Oh, I see. Well, that's one Zeta. Your sister's an AKA. She'll be in the AKA section, and that will be something. That will be something that's very, very special. Now, the telephone out here is 424-3376, and I need a call from the Alarath Temple number 20. I need a call from the various Eastern Star groups, Masonic groups, and all on that Capitol scene at 4 o'clock. Now, what Mr. Garrett is saying basically is that he wants everybody, right?
Exactly. All of the sororities and fraternities come out in full force, Masonic lodges and everyone. We're asking you to help us participate and make this filming and taping of Brother President a success.
I would like to call on White, Oklahoma City. You always ask me, what can I do? I tell you what you can do. You can join us at the state capitol, and that's next Sunday at 1 o'clock for the filming of Brother President. I would like to have representatives from labor unions and everybody. We're going to see who's going to call us first here at 424-3376. And I know Attorney Bruce is getting ready. I know my friends are coming, and we are going to see how many of our friends will be there on that state capitol scene. That's at 4 o'clock, because at 1 o'clock we want to fill the church. Now, those that are coming to the church, you've got to remember, you've got to dress like they did in 1969, and certainly I know you will. We welcome those of you with hats, and if you don't have a hat, come on anyway. We will show you exactly what to do. We will show you what to do. Okay, let's go on. Since we have the March on Washington, we will do both of those scenes the same day.
Exactly. We'll do the filming of the church and, of course, the filming of the March on Washington at the state capitol on March the 4th, which is next Sunday. Now, we've also invited the cast and characters of Brother President to help at the service at the Ebenezer Baptist Church starting at 11 o'clock.
So the casket will be there to worship with Reverend Dallas?
Right, exactly.
Oh, that will be interesting.
We were going to make it a whole day's affair with the members of the Ebenezer Baptist Church.
You know, so many of our white students have never been into a black church.
Yes, this will be a first experience for a lot of our students, exactly.
Okay. Now, once again, we are putting out a call for sororities and fraternities to participate in the filming of this. All right.
Okay, March the 5th, which of course will be that Monday. Starting at 1 o'clock, we will do our marching scenes, which will be actually on the streets of Oklahoma City, and we will start at 1 o'clock. And we have various organizations who will participate with us also on March the 5th.
Well, we just received a call from Mr. Joseph Brown of Langston University, who is from the Student Affairs Office. Congratulations to you and your students who will be in the film, and tell me what's going to happen out to Langston University on March 7th.
Okay, on March the 7th, the cast and characters again of Brother President will be making a journey to Langston University to do 3 different scenes out at Langston. The first scene, of course, will be the Morehouse College scene. The next scene will be the Boston University scene.
Is that love scene?
Yes.
Where Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott fall in love at Boston University? Yes.
Yes, it is. And also the final scene will be the film procession, which of course will be filmed at beautiful campus of Langston University.
I think that's quite something. I talked to Mr. Brown, and Mr. Brown say they are setting a piano out there in Curtis Plaza. They have the chairs and everything arranged, and incidentally, all of the people that's going out there for this filming will be able to eat out to Langston for $2.50. Isn't that something?
That's great. That's great. We will be taking a busload of students, of course, from the cast and characters of Brother President to help us film those 3 segments at Langston University. On March the 8th, which of course will be the next day after school, we will be doing the jail scenes starting at 3 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock that evening we will be doing the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church scene.
Okay, now that scene will be done at the Allen Chapel AME Church. We were clear with them. We talked to the pastor and also I'm in a Methodist church. We talked to Mr. Jack Jones. Now, we would like to have 6 o'clock on March the 8th, which is on a Thursday at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. Now, I was seeing the Mason Temple will be filmed at St. John's Baptist Church. Why did you select St. John?
Well, St. John's, I believe, is a big, beautiful church, and having the opportunity to see and be a part of Mason Temple myself, we thought that this church would be suitable to do the filming as a part of Brother President.
So many of you have called us and wanted to know why we didn't film at your church. We selected the churches that looked like the Ebenezer Baptist Church and the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, but we know you will cooperate. And let me tell you about the ushers. The president of the Citywide Usher, and who is that? Who's president of Citywide Ushers? Onita. And I'm so excited about this.
Brother Williams from the Avery Chapel.
From Brother Williams, the president of the Citywide Ushers, say to us that he will furnish ushers, and the scenes are going to be so realistic that it's just unbelievable.
Right, Ms. Luper, and at this time we'd like to take the opportunity to express our thanks from the students, faculty, and administration of John Marshall High School for all the community support that all of your listening audience have given us at this time.
I would certainly like to add to that when my police chief told me that anything that we needed, we could get it, and that includes uniforms, that includes real police cars. Right. The only thing, we're going to change them from Oklahoma City to Montgomery. Right. And AmCare, we would like to thank them because AmCare has agreed to furnish not only the ambulance to take Martin Luther King to the hospital when he was shot, but also the crew.
Right.
That is really something, and we better thank Mrs. Kazar, who's the mother of our Senator Baker, right, who has found an actual coffin for us. And we'll see to it that it gets out to Langston University. And speaking of that, we need some things. We need a wagon. We hate to take a wagon from Oklahoma City. And those of you that are listening out in the Langston area, we need a wagon and 2 mules. Now, if we can't get the 2 mules, we'll have to take 2 horses. And one more thing that we got to have, we've got to have a 1955 and a 1956 automobile.
Now, you think you're going to get those automobiles?
Oh, I'll have a 1955 automobile before we get off of this air, and a 1956. Now, the persons that have those 2 cars, see, we've got to get Martin Luther King to the airport. And he has to ride in a no, not 55. I need a 1968 or 69. And I need some 1955 automobiles to park around the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. And I need these by Thursday, March 8th. Let me go back over so I won't confuse my audience. I need some 1955 automobiles to park around the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. And I need some 1968 8s and 69s to park around the Ebenezer Baptist Church. So those of you that have 1968 automobiles in 1969, I want you to call me here at 424-3376. Can you think of anything else that we need?
No, at this time I would just like to mention some of our leading characters for Brother President and their parents. Of course, starring and playing Dr. Martin Luther King is none other than Ronald Moore Jr., who is the proud son of Mr. and Mrs. Ronald Moore Sr., and also the twins, On and Ornette Gaines. On, of course, is playing Brother President's roommate, and Ornette, of course, is playing Dr. Reverend Abernathy, who is the son of Mrs. Bernice Roan. And of course, Coretta Scott King is played by none other than Shirlise Lovelace, who is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Chester Lovelace. And some of the other characters, of course, you mentioned Michael Kazar, Anthony Johnson, just Chuck Davis, just to mention a few of the characters and cast of Brother President.
Well, I think we should also thank Mrs. Betty Mason, our superintendent of schools, Dr. Wright. We would also like to thank, above everything else, our principal, Dr. Ed, Mrs. Evans, Mrs. Dolly Turner,
right.
and in fact, Mrs. Cheryl Fowler and others. Now, Mrs. Hunter, you've heard what we are going to do. I just want to know what you're going to do to help us, along with my friend, Mrs. Nancy Davis.
Well, Mrs. Luper, I anticipate being in as many scenes as I can possibly get into. Now, listening to your schedule, I'm sure I can be in several of those scenes. And I don't know if I've thanked you, and I wanted to also thank your principal for giving us the privilege of coming out to John Marshall and seeing the first production of Mr. President, because it was truly an educational play, and you had wonderful participants participating on the program. And I want to thank you, and I'm certainly going to be there as many times as I can. So if they see me there, they're going to say, I wonder if she goes to John Marshall. It may be just kind of yes, because I'm going to get in on all of those scenes.
Well, Mrs. Hunter and Mr. Garrett, I've just received a word that one of my movie stars will be Bobby Hill, who drives a 69 Buick. And I will call Bobby and let him know exactly what to wear and where to be. Bobby Hill, 69 Buick. How many more 69 Buicks how many more 69s do we want? I told you that I have the most intelligent audience in the world. Anything that I want, I just have to tell them. Now watch these 55s come up. I need some 1955 model automobiles. Just watch and you'll see what's going to happen here on the Clara Luper radio show. The telephone is ringing, and I'm telling you, won't that be something? Just think about it. All at once, they will be seen, the audience will be seeing them, and they will be all over this country. They will be looking at people from Oklahoma City. Now, we need some more automobiles, and in this scene, all we would do, Martin Luther King will get in this automobile and take off to the airport.
Yes, exactly. Briefly, Mr. So I can go over these filming dates again. Starting with March the 1st, we'll be at John Marshall High School, starting at 12:20 and 1:20. On March the 2nd, we'll be at the state capitol at 3 o'clock doing the Senate and Supreme Court scene. On March the 4th, we will start at 11 o'clock with service at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, and at 1 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, we will be at the state capitol during the March on Washington for 1963 and 1983. On March the 5th, we will be in the streets doing our marching scenes as march in Montgomery, Alabama. On March the 7th, we will be at Langston University filming 3 different scenes: the Morehouse College scene, the Boston University scene, and of course the funeral procession. And March the 8th, we will be doing the jail scene and the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church scene.
Thank you so very kindly. These automobiles continue to come in, and Mr. isn't that wonderful? Pollard's Funeral Home in Oklahoma City has stated that they will furnish a casket. And don't forget, we will have everything together. And here's Onita with the funeral and death announcements. Continue to call me. I need some more 55 automobiles. I've got to have them, and you know you're going to do it for me.
Roth Funeral Home announces the following services. Services from Mrs. Birdie Brookins of 2711 Lowndes Drive will be Monday at 11 a.m. at the 5th Street Baptist Church. Funeral service from Mr. Willie D. Moneyboy Mack of 904 Northeast 35th will be Monday at 2 p.m. at the Antioch Baptist Church at 507 North Bay. Mr. Willie Mack and was a brother of Mrs. Dorothy McCullough of 1717 Northeast 14th Street. Funeral service for Mrs. Laura Frazier of 3305 Northeast 14th will be Tuesday at 2 p.m. at the Ebenezer Baptist Church. Funeral services for Mrs. Cleona Cooper Dossett of 1534 Northeast 16th Terrace will be Wednesday at 1 p.m. at the East Side Church of Christ. Funeral service for Mrs. Hayne R. Ellis of 7200 North Sooner Road will be Friday at 11 a.m. at the Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church. Funeral service for Mrs. Geraldine Rogan of 7000 North Sooner Road is pending with the Roth Funeral Home. Temple Funeral Home announces the following services. Services for Mr. John Paul Jones of Minneapolis, Minnesota is pending with the Temple Funeral Home. Services for Mrs. Mary Willis of 3645 North Prospect is pending with the Temple Funeral Home. Services for Mrs. Lottie Gatlin of the Woodside Nursing Home is pending with the Temple Funeral Home. McKay Davis announces the following services. Mr. Mallory F. Tyson of Oklahoma City is pending. We would like to say to the families tonight, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth beside the still waters. He restoreth our soul. And may God grant you comfort in your loss, as only He can do, and give you strength and courage in the days ahead of you. Back to Clara.
The Inland Shores Seafood Market, Restaurant, and Club would like for you to come out to 6749 East Reno. The telephone number is 732-2623 in Heritage Park Mall. There you will find food just like you love it. That's the Inland Shores Seafood Market, Restaurant, and Club, 6749 East Reno in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Speaking of Oklahoma, Calvin, I understand that you're now an insurance agent.
You're absolutely right, and I'd like to take this Sunday to announce the fact that I will be working with the Equitable Life Insurance Company.
Well, give me your telephone number.
And my home number would be 424-3949. Office number is the 840-3311. But you know, it's really an honor for me to be working with Equitable in the fact that it is a good company, a great company, one of the largest companies, and I just hope that your intelligent listening audience will give me an opportunity to show you the Equitable plan, and I'm certain that there is a plan that will help you in your insurance needs and whatever else you may do. You know, speaking of insurance, though, I'm really looking forward to this week because this will be my first full week doing it, so I just hope I can do as well as I know that I should be able to do.
Well, thank you, Calvin. This morning I want to tell you that I had the surprise of my life. My church honored me with a Clara Luper special. They presented me roses, and the roses were presented by those that had walked with me in the sit-in movement. Reverend Bradford gave up his sermon time, and you know that's something, in order that they could honor me. Calvin, I have never been so honored in all my life. How do I say thanks to Arita Spinks? How do I say thanks to Lynzetta Jones? How do I say thanks to Theresa Morgan? How do I say thanks to Richard Brown, to Merlin, to Calvin, to Betty? I don't know how to say thanks to Anna Slaughter that instigated it. I don't know. But I know one thing. I cried this morning because I never would have believed that I would have lived to see the missions of my church, my whole church people, give me the flowers where I could smell them. And as I prepare now to go off the air, I beg of you, if you have anything good to say about anybody, say it now. If you want to give somebody some flowers, give them to them while they live. If you have something good to say about somebody, say it now. And let me tell you to go up to Rosie's restaurant and get you some good old soul food. And last night in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Maryland Hildred was awarded the top insurance agent in the state of Oklahoma. Congratulations by Allstate Insurance Company. And Calvin, I do hope, I'm looking forward to seeing you become the #1 agent. If not, you will be behind Maryland. Can you take her on? Can you do anything with Maryland?
You're absolutely right, Mother, because of the fact that I'm working with a great company, and I'll be doing great work, and I'll be presenting a great plan. And I just sincerely hope that there are those out there in the listening audience who